SOHO China is one of my favorite developers slash development firms. In this like on planet Earth, like I don't know anyone else who rivals like the architects they use and just all of their properties, how unique they are. If you know a lot of like the Zaha Hadid buildings that are in China, a lot of the Kingo Kuma buildings were all developed by this company. Going through their portfolio, I think you can really understand the strategic things they did in order to put them where they are, but also at the same time, like understand the luck in some ways of what helped them, besides all the things on the business side. It was just like the right time and right place and the right people. I think it was a lot of what it is. When I first heard about Soho China, I was probably like in eighth grade talking to my dad about like property and stuff, even though I didn't know anything. I just like remember him telling me about Soho, and I was like, "Isn't there a Soho in like Manhattan? Is that like a knockoff?" That was like what I originally thought the name was. It's like a knockoff of like Manhattan Soho. So I was like, "Oh, tacky, whatever." But no, it's actually like the abbreviation for small office, home office, which I know sounds really stupid, but that's kind of like the gist of like their thing. Just over the years, I've been to like a handful of the properties in China. And going there has made me realize how cool this company really is. So in this video, I kind of want to obviously give you guys a brief introduction about who they are, the people behind this company, because I think they are one of the main reasons why it is so successful and unique in its own way. And a rundown of like all their properties in China, basically of their entire real estate portfolio. And then yeah, just thoughts and opinions. I guess I'll just start with who they are and all of that. So as I mentioned earlier, Soho is a really weird name. Soho actually is not a knockoff of like the Soho in Manhattan. They weren't like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, let's just copy that. It actually refers to smart office, home office, which is their entire concept at first, is to combine small offices with small homes in the same complex. So they can both sell to business oriented and also just residential. And it was really cool because at the time, some like context is China was like experiencing some of like a business boom, economic boom. So there's a lot of like companies, small, especially small to mid-sized companies that didn't need like whole entire corporations, or like they don't need like entire office buildings, but they were in need of office spaces. So that was why it's called Smart Office, Home Office, SOHO abbreviation. Okay. Um, it was founded by these two like power couple. The husband's name is Pan Shiyi, and then the wife's name is Zhang Xin. So there isn't actually a lot of information on Pan Shiyi. I just know that he like develops real estates and like I don't actually I'm gonna stop right there because I like legit don't know anything about this man, and his like Wikipedia page is like literally such a joke. So I'm not gonna talk about him just because I feel like I'm gonna be wrong. But Zhang Xin is a really interesting character because obviously she is a woman in a very male dominant field. But I think she was also the one who was I think she was the one behind all the like really interesting ideas, just in like my personal opinion, just because I know that she has a relationship with like architects and also she had a lot of experiences working in the development industry. So a little bit of background about her. Her parents were divorced and she's like very working class. She moved to Hong Kong when she was 15, and ended up going to the University of Sussex for a degree, bachelor's in economics. And then later on, she got a master's in development economics at Cambridge, which like from that just like diva period. Following that, she worked for Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs, if you don't know who they are, they're basically, I think, a consultant firm or something like. I don't know. I'm just making things up. I don't investment all of that. I don't know. Goldman Sachs, they're really cool, crazy, and it's really hard to work there. So the fact that she worked there is insane. Um, After she left Goldman Sachs in 19 something, okay, I don't know the details, but 90 something, okay, she and her husband founded Redstone, which is Soho. It was originally called Redstone. I don't know why it's called Redstone, but it was called Redstone. And that was like the founding of Soho. It was founded in 1998. Okay, now that's kind of like a brief introduction about like who these people are and whatever. We're gonna move to like their entire real estate portfolio essentially. And I'm gonna do it in chronological order just because they kind of it's like all over the places and it happened in such a short time period that like it's just really hard to like I have a hard time like trying to wrap my mind around this because the fact that it was like founded in 1998 and it's only been like not even 30 years at this point, but they have such a extensive portfolio. Okay, so let's just start with their first property. Um, so it was 1998. They just founded the company. It was their first development. They like literally, I read like this article, and the way Zhang Xin was talking about it was just like, oh, I had this idea, and then like it was so easy to do business back then because like people were wanted to invest. It was like an economic boom, and it was really easy to get people to just like help them invest in this property. And their first development was called the Soho New Town. It was designed by this Chinese architecture firm, um, Zhou Xiaodi. This is low-key so embarrassing on my part, but his name is actually Zhu Xiaodi, not Zhou Xiaodi. He is actually a really famous, I say actually, he's a very famous architect in China. He designs a lot of high-profile buildings, especially for like state projects, I will say. So like provincial like opera houses and libraries and a lot of things like that. So the Soho New Town was the first model of their smart home, smart office concept. So it's a mixed use complex with very like small units for companies and residential units. And compared to a lot of other developments at the time in China, this was a relatively interesting take on residential development because so compared to a lot of like the gated communities of like traditional Chinese neighborhood that were like passed down from like Soviet block design, these were all open. So these are all like they're just towers, and it's not a gated community. It's like open to everyone essentially. Which like I know it doesn't sound groundbreaking, but in China at the time it was. But honestly, that's like as much as I can tell you in terms of that because there's really not that much about it. Like design wise, I don't think it's the most insane design. It kind of reminds me of like Japanese department store or like I don't even know what kind of style it would be called. There was one I remember when I was like in I don't know, it was like 2020, no, it was 2019 when my parents moved houses and we had to like buy a new bed frame or like I don't like something like that or like a mattress. And I remember my parents like bought basically it was like Chinese Facebook Marketplace and it was from this guy, a single guy who was like living in Soho Newtown. And he was like so like okay, I'm gonna not be mean because I was gonna say like incel, but it was a really funny experience. So they were obviously very successful with their first project. I think they were able to get a pretty high like occupancy rate and also like sell all their units. Moving on to 2002, I think this is a pretty defining year in their entire history. So this was a year that they basically it's they started a project. It's called the Commune by the Great Wall. I think I'm saying that right. Commune by the Great Wall. And essentially they basically made their own like architecture competition essentially by hiring 12 like really famous Asian architects to design 12 villas by the Great Wall. And they kind of saw it as like a vetting process, in my opinion. They gave the architects like complete free reign on like whatever they want to do. And through that, they were again like able to make really good connections, and at the same time like see the architects in their elements, so that they know like who to use and who to hire and things like that, which I thought was really cool. And within that, some architects, just to name a few, were like Kingo Kuma, this Korean guy. His like I forgot his name. I don't know how to say. I know his name. It's like H Song, Soon H Song. I'm probably saying it wrong. Again, I'll just put the list up because I like legit don't remember. It's like so many people. Obviously, they didn't end up like using all of them. Um, Following that, so 2 years after that was their second major development. This was probably like designed before the Commune by the Great Wall. So I don't know how much influence the Commune on the Great Wall by the Great Wall had on this project, but this is their second major project, Jianwai Soho, which is by the financial district in Beijing. It's a relatively large complex, consists of three or two office buildings and then other I think it's like 9 towers in total, so probably like three office buildings and six residential towers. It was really interesting because unlike most of the buildings in Beijing, the site was shifted 30 degrees. So when you look at it from a distance, you can clearly tell like it's very distinct in that it doesn't look like any of the buildings around it. Design-wise, there's really nothing interesting about it stylistically, I would say. It's just very contemporary, a lot of like glass and like a grid design. Almost reminds me of 432 Park Avenue in New York City by Raphael Vignoli, like the white trash can design. I feel like that might be the OG trash can, honestly. I forgot to mention the architect. It's by Riken Yomamoto. I think I'm saying that right, hopefully. Um, Even though like stylistically, as I said before, it's not like anything insane, I will say it's a defining design for a lot of the later Soho projects. And that is of like the mix of residential, retail, and office built spaces. And like by saying that might not sound very groundbreaking, but I'll put up like diagrams. So basically, how Yamamoto designed the complex is that it has like a plinth at the base. So the plinth at the base has like multiple layers of plazas that form these like really intimate alley spaces to host like retail shops and a lot of like different retail spaces essentially. Um, and because there were like so many levels, the plaza is open to the public and there's like no car traffic at all. Everything car related is moved to the basement. And then on top of the basement is like the basement plaza. And then there's like two layers of like plaza. So there's like the ground level plaza and a sunken plaza. So the sunken plaza are all the shops. And then I think there's also shops on the first level as well. So there's like a lot of opportunity for like retails and it's just like a really I like think about it as like a just like a outdoor like shopping strip, which I thought was really interesting. And I think the success of that is being able to mix like residential occupants with office workers because now these shops benefit from like basically like 24/7. There's always going to be there's office workers in the morning and then like at night all the um residential people are there. So like it's a very vibrant community. People are always there. And because it is to the public, like the entire plaza is open to the public, it benefits communities around it. Which I think like this is a really defining Soho feel, if I will say, of mixed use, very chaotic, but at the same time, um, designed in such unity. Okay. So from there on, that was I want to say like the most I don't know like this is so from 2004 to 2008 we're moving on from Jianwai China Soho. I think this is definitely like their prime in terms of like real estate development. Um and like some context, this was like in between the Beijing Olympics, which attracted a lot of like investors, foreign investors, local investors, and all of that into like real estate. And also a government push for new developments because they want to like beautify the city and all of that. So from 2004 to 2008, they developed like so many buildings. So I'm just like gonna go through the entire list of it and then talk about a few that I really liked. And I'm not gonna like say Soho because like all of them are called like something something Soho. It's like the place and then the Soho. So there's like Soho in Jianwai, Shangdu, Chaoyangmen, Nexus Center, Zhongguancun, which is the Silicon Valley of Beijing, and then the Soho Residence. Um, so notable ones I would say is the Chaowai Soho. I was there just a couple months ago over the summer. The first time I went there, it was like actually by coincidence because I was just like doing crazy things in downtown Beijing by like the CBD area, central business, whatever, who cares? And then I was just like walking around and um walked past it and thought it was such a cool building that I had to like go in and explore. I actually went back there like multiple times. So when you like first go there, you can like immediately tell that this is like one of the most vibrant communities within the entire area compared to like the shopping malls and all of that, especially like during lunch hours. The building is inspired by like traditional Chinese like hutong alleyways essentially in like ancient Chinese city designs. They basically it consists of a courtyard in the middle, and then from there, there's like four alleyways that you can go through. It's from level 1 to level 5 are like retail spaces, and then from 5 to 11, level 5 to 11 are the office buildings. And then there's one larger tower that is like literally integrated into the site. That's 25-story high. So yeah, it's a very large complex, and there's also a really massive rooftop deck. I think it's like one of the most well executed rooftop deck. It's like accessible by the public from like the first floor, and there's like a glass elevator that takes you from the first floor up. There's also like a lot of like bridge pathways in between the building because it's like actually like two buildings connected together. Um, and just like really like the way I would describe it is like if you watch Harry Potter, like the Harry Potter magic stairs is what it feels like. It's so intriguing. It's so well executed as well. And then right next to it is the Shangdu Soho. I'm not gonna really talk about it. It's very similar design. Um, yeah. The floor plan is really strange because the walls are slanted. And apparently it's a issue a lot of the tenants complain about of like hard to work with, especially like retail. When you're doing retail, it's like hard to work with the slanted walls and all of that. And then the next major project, I wouldn't say it's like major, but I just want to like briefly touch on this because I think you will understand later on. The Soho Residence was a really interesting project that I think actually attributed to a lot of like the later confusing um, architecture choices in the future. So this was actually picked up by Soho. It was originally already in development, but the um, developer previously had sold it to them. And then they used this German architect, it's called GPM Architect. They're German, to design it. Overall, I would say like for a residential building, it's like pretty well designed. It's just like a normal residential building, and like any Soho project, they're like one of the highest qualities in construction in China. Um, but yeah, but I want to talk about this German architecture firm because again, like Soho ended up working with them many more times, and a lot of their designs have confused me quite a bit just because comparing it to the other more like interesting and projects. And it was also in 2007 they went public, like just to show that like how fast this entire thing progressed. So they were founded in 1998, and then by 9 years they were able to go public. And I think that's like pretty significant for like a development firm. And again, like their portfolio in Beijing is so insane. Like I don't even know how many properties they have. I'm thinking like at least 10 at this point. Especially like by 2008 of like the Beijing Olympic, they were like opening buildings every other month. Um, yeah. Okay. Oh, wait, actually, there's another one I want to talk about. 2008, they also launched the Guanghualu Soho, designed by Mada Spam, something like that. It's another Chinese firm. I couldn't go on their website, so I can't like find the exact head architect of the firm or like the principal architect of the firm. I really like the design actually. It's a very quirky building. It has like little dots and like circular windows and like weird quirky shapes. It reminds me of like drawings by Yayoi Kusama. It like very much um like 2008 tech, 2008 like minimalist design vibes. Like think about like the iPod Touch or like the iPhone 5C, like very much so of that. Like a lot of plastic, but it's like fun and quirky, I will say. Let me go back to my timeline. So yeah, so that was 2008. I will say like from 2002 and 2008, that's like their prime. Especially because the Olympic happened in 2008. But yeah, anyways, moving on. In 2010, they launched the Sanlitun Soho, which is their largest complex by volume. The reason why I really want to talk about Sanlitun Soho is I think this really encapsulates like the original like really Soho feel of community and mixed use complex. At the same time, it kind of shows some of the flaws that are starting to come through, especially like giving architects free reign to do whatever they want. So Sanlitun Soho is made up of 9 towers, 5 office towers, and 4 residential towers. And keep in mind, these are all like 30-story buildings, so it's a very large complex. And at the base of 4 of these buildings are actually 4 shopping malls, and they're like full-size malls. So you can just like imagine the size of this. And besides that, there's like a 3-level plaza that is all centered around this river that goes down the middle, which is like the design inspiration of um, the entire complex is basically like a stream of river. Actually, like the buildings themselves kind of reminds me of like little islands that surround the stream, which is interesting. So the 5 residential, so it like covers all the things that makes Soho so unique, which is like office spaces, residential, and large shopping malls. So let me just talk about, I guess, like some of the pros and cons or like success and also failures of this. So success, the residential and office buildings, towers were able to achieve like really high occupancy rate by year 2, which is really good for like a complex that large. However, on the commercial side or retail side of it, um, it did not have the same success, especially like the malls and other retails around the plaza. And I attribute that, I actually read an article about this, attribute that to 2 main problems. One is design, the other is literally the fact that there is a major retail mall right across the street. To give you some context, right across the street from Soho Sanlitun is Sanlitun Taiguli. Taiguli is in English, I think it's called the Swire Group. It's a large real estate developer based in Hong Kong. And their whole spiel is like high-end retail. So think about like Gucci, think about basically like all the luxury brands. So their whole thing is like luxury retail. So when you put that next to Soho, it means that all the luxury tenants, or like all the like really high-end things are gonna be in Taikuri because it's a complex that's specifically dedicated to retail. And then, so that kind of left Soho with like boutique shops and like I don't even know, like smaller businesses. And because Soho has this like build to sell model, they didn't really have much management over the retail properties because again, like they're built to sell. So the tenants are like able to do whatever they want essentially. So there really isn't a cohesive branding, which end up causing the whole complex to look like if I can describe it, I would like describe it as like cyberpunk. Like it just looks so hectic and like not an amazing like it's not the best look for a high-end real estate property, I will say. Second problem is more on the design side. So because the vertical facade of these towers, it was really hard to put up advertisement or really for like any of the shops to have like large branded um spaces essentially. So like that comparing to Taikuli, which is like very much focused on retail. Like their entire like you can rent entire um billboards and like all of that to put your brand identity or whatever. But then like going over to Soho, like that's just not the case. Like they weren't able to put up like large logos. They don't have like massive billboards. They don't have like dedicated shop spaces. Which speaking of shop spaces, the design of the building is very curvilinear, which caused issues when a lot of the tenants are like renovating the space because obviously it's hard to like work with curved spaces. And the curves themselves are like honestly really awkward, in my opinion. Um, I remember going to like the largest unit they had, even though it was like so big, it's like 2,700 square feet. It did not feel like it at all. I think I had like a massive living room and then 3 smaller rooms. So like the master bedroom, and then a guest bedroom. And then the third room actually I would like consider it as a study. It didn't have ensuite bathroom, which like for a property of that caliber, I think would be a problem. And yeah, it was just like a really confusing design. Again, like I would attribute that to the design of Kingo Kuma to like make such a I don't know, like it's a really cool design, but I don't think like it made the most business sense. So yeah, so those are like some of the problems with it. This is a really random side note, but I also read somewhere from like tenants who have units facing the inward plaza. They were complaining about like especially at night or like when there's a lot of people, it can get really loud because the acoustics of like the glass facade was not very good. So it's actually really funny because the Sanlitun Taeguli was also designed by Kingo Kuma, but I think like when you first look at it, you wouldn't think they were designed by the same architect just because how different they were. And I'm really like intrigued by that because I think like especially looking at like I don't know like modernist architecture of like Mies van der Rohe and all of that, like that was very much so cookie cutter, just copy the same formula and like replicate it. But here it's like obviously there are distinct Kingokuma elements to it, but they are so different, and you see the like different approach they had and the result um that came essentially. And I think from there on, Soho kind of realized that like instead of giving architects free reins, they might want to reconsider and have more control. 2012. This is probably like um the year that Soho became more well known to like globally. They worked with Zaha Hadid pretty extensively. I'm gonna call this era the Zaha Hadid era for Soho, because from 2012 on, they worked with Zaha Hadid multiple times, like more than four times, I think. And it really put them on the global scene. I say that knowing that most people watching this probably have no idea what Soho is. Um, that was also the same year they shifted the model to build to lease, which is why I think they shifted away from residential. Because obviously you can't really build to lease residential buildings, office slash retail mixed use buildings. So in 2012, they launched the Wangjing Soho. At least they started building it. It wasn't completed until 2014. This was a very distinct Zaha design. Like if you know Zaha, you know like this is the Zaha design that we all love. Very curvilinear, undulating lines, dune inspired. I don't know what else to say. It's very beautiful. The complex is 115,000 square meters, which is pretty large. But actually, the following year in 2015, Soho Galaxy, also designed by Zaha Hadid, opened, and it's like a very similar design. Like for the longest time, I thought they were the same buildings, but no, they're actually two separate buildings in like two separate locations. The Soho Galaxy actually was double the size of that. It was 332,000 square meters, very large complex. I don't really know much about it. I've never been. I probably have. I just don't remember. It's again like Zaha Hadid design. There's not really anything else I can like. I don't think compared to the Kingo Kuma design, or even like the Jianwai Soho by Yamamoto, it didn't really have much um communal design, if that makes sense. I think like Zaha Hadid is very focused on like aesthetics and the looks versus um the other designs I talked about earlier that were more oriented on functionality and also integration of the properties with its surroundings. Which actually, speaking of, there was a massive controversy when Wangjing Soho was first launched. Wangjing Soho is like located in like the historical area, or like it's like right next to the historical area landmarks area in Beijing. So there's like basically like a entire slum. At least like it looks like a slum that's next to this like massive like white spaceship looking building. Um which a lot of people felt was like kind of insensitive and also I don't know, lack of consideration, especially with like integration into the surrounding neighborhoods. Obviously, that actually wasn't the case because I think like whenever something like this goes up, the local community obviously benefits. And I say obviously, a lot of like if you've been to China, you know how like there's like aunties, like old grandparents, like dancing at like 9 p.m. in like plazas and things like that. So like Soho, Soho Wangjing like became that for a lot of like the local communities around it, even though it's like surrounded by like a bunch of slums. Um, and people were not very happy about the fact that like design never really considered the local community. I think it still like benefited the surroundings, if I do say so myself. Um, So moving away from Zaha Hadid, this is where the Germans came in, and I think Soho really started to, I don't know, like this is kind of like I call it the flop era of Soho because I just like legit don't know what was happening with their business strategies and also like everything else in terms of like design and philosophy and that. So in 2013, the Germans designed the Fuxinglu Soho in Shanghai. This was a retail plus office complex. It's basically like several rows of small retail malls, like strip malls, and then one tower. Again, like it just didn't feel like there wasn't like an integration of community. Like there wasn't compared to like a lot of the other developments, like Sanlitun Soho or like Jianwei Soho. There wasn't a public plaza. There wasn't like it just did not feel like it was really designed for community, which I think was what Soho is known for. Like if you look at Sanlitun Soho, like the massive plaza in the middle, people are skateboarding there. People are like picnicking. Well, maybe not picnicking. Who wants to be picnicking on like freaking concrete floors? But it's very much so for the public. But here you don't see that just because I think it's so like retail oriented. This just like looks like a normal shopping mall anywhere in like China or like Asia. The Germans also went on designing this other building. It's called the Waitan Soho, also in Shanghai. Again, like it's just very confusing. Like I don't, it did not have the distinct Soho feel. Like if you go there, I like would not know it was a Soho property at all. Like and like it's just a very generic office building. It's supposed to be neo-goth, but I don't think I saw any neo-goth in it. And that's just my personal opinion. Um, yeah, it's just a really weird design. And then following that in 2015, the Germans also, this is literally just like me going through like everything dirty that the German did for Soho from 2013 to like 2015. Um, or like even more actually, I don't know. Okay, so moving on. In 2015, GMP designed Guanghua Soho 2. So this is actually right across the street from um Guanghua Soho 1, which is the one that looks like Yayoi Kusama paintings or like whatever, like with the dots and circular windows and all of that. And again, it's just like it's a very like sterile looking building, like very generic and nothing really exciting. And personally, just like from a design standpoint, I really don't think it's that well designed. Like if you look at it, I'll put up pictures. It's definitely like I think oh, okay, so there isn't a plaza integration, which obviously is not a standard thing, but I just feel like that was such a successful part of like all the other Soho developments that I'm really gag that this doesn't have that. And then the second thing is that the design language did not reflect Guanghua Soho 1, which is very strange because I feel like if you're designing something right next to it, like maybe callback. So there wasn't any of that. And then also this was just like another thing because I was like looking at like Chinese Zillow of the apartment across the street from it, which I'll circle in the video itself. But the roof of the building itself is so slanted that it's like completely visible from like the higher unit of the apartment complex right next to it. And it's literally just like aluminum slots. Like it just I don't know. I think it was such a like missed opportunity to do like a really cool green roof or like honestly anything that isn't just aluminum sheets or like a generic roof. Yeah, so that's my problem with that. Again, like I don't know what the Germans are doing, but clearly I think they were doing something right because Soho hired them 4 times. Um, but yeah. In 2015, after they built Guanghua Soho 2, they actually converted it into Soho 3Q, which is like their new office concept. So like instead of building like full-size office spaces, they were moving more towards like micro offices that are like short-term lease. So you can like lease it for like a week and it's like maybe like a meeting room or something like that. So it's not like a permanent office. And I think that was um targeted especially towards like e-commerce and also like internet companies like that because like it's kind of like a fast-paced industry and there's like a lot of changes happening constantly, so I think that's why they kind of did that. And in the same year, they actually shifted back to sell a build to sell, which I thought was really confusing, and why I called this era of Soho kind of their flop era. Just because I think like obviously things are not working and they were trying to like just throw random things and see what sticks. Um, so yeah. So following 2016, they developed another property in Shanghai. This is the Tianshan Plaza Soho by KPF. And then following that in 2017, they hired Kingo Kuma again to design the Hongkou Soho. This one is just obviously like if you see it, you know it's a Kingo Kuma, like very contemporary Japanese design. I like it because obviously it's a Kingo Kuma. But comparing it to Sunny Twin Soho, which had like such a distinct feel to it, I don't think it was like that crazy. Yeah. And then 2018, Gubei. This was also designed by KPF. It's a office and retail tower. I've never been, I don't know, I don't really have a lot of information on it. But yeah, that's kind of it. And then 2019, this was their last project, I think, till today. This was the Lize Soho by none other than Zaha Hadid. So yeah, so that's their last project by Zaha Hadid. And I think like um in that you can like tell, I guess like I think it really shows my thoughts on Zaha Hadid like as a designer. It's just like sure like it's aesthetically they're very beautiful, but I don't think they are designed very holistically in terms of like environmental human experience and things like that. Um, it has the world's largest atrium. Just think about the AC bill from that. Um, so yeah, I will say I went to the Daxing Airport once. It's I think it's one of the most well-designed airports that I've been to in the world. It's such a large, like you don't realize how massive it is, but it's also so easy to get around. So that was just a rundown of their entire real estate portfolio from 1998 to 2019, which again is their last development to date. Um, I don't know, some personal thoughts. The reason why I'm very intrigued by looking into like these developers is because I think when you see architects working with developers, you understand what makes the most like economic sense for developers. Is that because obviously architects are working for developers and developers their goal is to make a lot of money. So the architects that do stick are the ones who understand the needs of these developers and make them the most money. Okay, I need to reiterate my point because I feel like that just sounds like very cynical. Um, the reason why I say it's very important for architects to understand what the developer want is because if you like really think about it, developers make money from customers that use their service, and having a good building means that your user is going to be happy. And if it makes the developers a lot of money, that means that the occupants or the people the buildings serve are happy. So yeah, understanding the developers is ultimately understanding what the customers want. And I think a lot of times architects might overlook how much the developers might know of exactly what the customers want. Because the connotation of like, oh, these people just want to make money, blah, blah, blah. Which I think to a certain degree is very true. And sometimes that means not having quirky floor plans or like less radical designs. Or like even Zaha, like having very aesthetically pleasing buildings that might not be lead certified or things like that. Which actually don't quote me on that. I don't know if any of her buildings are lead qualified. I had a feeling that I was making that up, and I looked up Lisa Soho, which is the one I was talking about. It's actually LEED Gold certified, which is not the highest certifications you can get, but it does um, certify it as like a green building, if that makes sense. So I was wrong about that, and I apologize. In more recent years, I think Soho has definitely like experienced more financial and also just issues with like the Chinese economy after COVID and like politics and things like that. Pan Shi and Zhang Xin actually no longer work for Soho anymore. They sold the company in 2021 and moved to New York City. They are now living in New York City, which I would do that too. Um, but yeah, so I don't really know what the company is gonna be like. Um, Especially that they're now moving away from new developments, moving away from like as significant developments compared to like 2008 having like five project happening at the same time, um, to now not building something for the past 6 years. So yeah, so that's like honestly all the things I know about this company. And again, like I really do love Soho China. I think that they are such a unique development firm that I legit do not know any other development firm on planet Earth who like pulls together the coolest architects on Earth and make like such groundbreaking developments and have like such a wide range of properties in their portfolio. This recently I came across this Australian developer called Metropolitics, something like that. But they are like kind of similar, but like on a smaller scale, I would say. They focus on mainly residential and retail buildings. And again, it's like they use very cool architects and design very unique spaces that suits their needs. I'm literally like losing my voice and I like legit need to stop yapping about this. Um, yeah. If you guys want me to like when I go back to China, I'll probably like go visit some of their. Oh, actually, very random side note. The commune by the Great Wall are actually managed by Hyatt at the current moment. So if you have the money, you can like technically book yourself in there. I would love to if I have the money, but unfortunately, I do not. I love talking about buildings. So if there's like any other like interesting things about buildings that you want me to talk about, let me know. I'll like again look into it and just talk about everything I know. Actually, I really want to talk about this Thai architect. His name is like Cupola something something. He designed the Grand Rapids Museum of Art, which is like literally I live nearby it. That's why I like know about it. It's like so not well known. But I thought he's like really interesting. He focuses on a lot of opera design and also like museum designs. And he has such a quirky personality that I'm like, if I ever became an architect, which hopefully I think I'll be like that. So yeah. So now you know what Soho China is. Spread the words to your other, I don't know, architecture nerd friends to just know about like, yeah, Soho is so interesting. I'll put up like, I just love this so much. Like, I want to go back to China and just like go visit all other properties. Like, I don't know any other like property development firms that like, especially on the scale like this, who has like a connection with all of these like really iconic architects and just like let them do whatever they want. Like this is to me like so crazy. And I wish like one day I can do that. I can find a developer like that who can like just give me whatever money and like do whatever. Oh, there's actually this other building that I really want to talk about in China in Beijing. It's called the Link Hybrid by Stephen Knowles. Or is it Stephen Knowles? I think it's Stephen Knowles. Um, he is a really funny, goofy guy. Personally, I think he's really funny. He's like 80 something years old, but like the way he speaks is like just hilarious. It's very into sustainable design, and a lot of his buildings are like sustainable. They're like I think his buildings are like a few of the architects I know of who like really do put sustainability like into the design and like really do have them materialize, if that makes sense. Because like I think a lot of times like sustainability can be such a like trivial thing of like, okay, yeah, Stephen Knoll. Who else? Who else do I really like? Oh, Tom. What's that one guy's name who designed the Cooper Union campus? He's so funny. I think he's so hot. He is so hot. Um, okay, I'm gonna wrap this up and like edit this and post it. But goodbye. Thank you for sticking around and yeah, let me know which one of these buildings is your favorite. And if you want to know more about like weird architect things and whatever, let me know. Adios.